The Congo Basin is one of the last places on Earth where the line between folklore and undiscovered biology is still pretty blurry. It's so vast, so hostile, and so unexplored that even today, it keeps secrets that the rest of the world has no idea about. Hidden deep in those slow, dark rivers is one of the most persistent and honestly one of the coolest legends on the African continent. Creatures older than the villages built along the water, older than colonization, and older than the stories that eventually escaped the forest. Welcome back to Paranormish. This week we'll be going over yet another one of my favorite cryptids, the Mokele-Mbembe. It is said to be a dinosaur-like creature said to inhabit the uncharted areas of the Congo. Now before you start reaching for your trekking poles and your pack to go out and search for Littlefoot, or to start your very own Jurassic Park, let's start with an overview. Descriptions of the creature are remarkably consistent, despite coming from different regions and generations. Witnesses describe a massive animal, much bigger than a hippopotamus. Now, I've read some reports of it being much larger, like 70 foot plus, but from what I've found, it sounds like most of the locals say it's about the size of an elephant. It has a large muscular neck rising from the water like a tree branch, a thick, powerful tail, and a rounded or slightly horned head. Now, its skin is often described as a reddish-brown, like the clay that is found on the riverbanks. The claim is that it looks very much like a sauropod dinosaur. So it isn't really described as a predator, though it will eat meat given the opportunity, which is not uncommon even for herbivorous animals, but it is very territorial. Now, I know what you're thinking. Joe, are you trying to convince me that there's not only a giant snake in the Congo, but a dinosaur as well? Yes, well, sort of. Hear me out, okay? The creature is said to live in deep water, grazing along the riverbeds and marshlands. Local fishermen claim it will block channels or overturn canoes if approached. Hunters say they've heard it breathe, slowly, heavily, and just beyond the fog, only to have it vanish when they look toward the sound. In the villages surrounding the Likuala, the creature isn't really described as a monster or a mythic beast, it's simply part of the river's ecosystem. Dangerous, yes, but not supernatural, just another animal. And that brings us to the voices of the people who know this land best. For more than a century, stories about the Mokele-Mbembe have surfaced from people who lived beside these remote rivers their entire lives. Their words don't sound like fantasy, they sound more like memory. In 1913, an early recorded account describes villagers seeing a huge animal, bigger than any hippo, they said, surfacing at dusk. One witness said it lifted its neck straight up from the river like a snake trying to taste the air. It didn't roar, it didn't thrash, it simply watched them silently before sinking beneath the water, leaving a slow, spiraling wake. In the 1970s, several hunters told explorers that something large and reddish blocked a narrow channel they used frequently. Its hide looked like dark clay. They heard a heavy exhale, and one man said, like a crocodile but heavier and older. When they tapped their paddles on the surface, the creature shifted and dove, creating a current so strong it rocked their canoe as if a boat had passed. In the early 2000s, a young native fisherman reported a tall shape rising from the water, taller than the surrounding vegetation. He believed it was feeding. Then he later told researchers, "If it was a crocodile, I would not be here talking. This was something else." And even as recent as 2023, several villages have reported an unusual increase in sightings. One man fishing at dawn said he watched a massive back, one long curve, travel slowly upstream. He heard a deep splash, then saw a long shape ripple the water as it submerged. He said, "It moved like it knew the river better than we do, like it had been there before any of us." Across the generations, the descriptions barely changed. That consistency is what's very unusual and also compelling. Every so often, videos appear online, brief, shaky clips recorded on old camcorders. Well, take this footage for example. Now, it isn't very definitive, but I felt like it was definitely worth showing in case you've never seen it before. Many claim it's a swimming elephant, while others say the wake is too uniform, believing it belongs to the Mokele-Mbembe. While not a video, there is a recording of the beast calling captured by Herman Ruggesters at Lake Tele in the Republic of Congo in 1981. He claims to have captured this audio as the beast walked away from him into the thicket. Here, listen for yourself. He also took this photo at some point, which he believed to be a submerged Mokele-Mbembe. While these don't prove the creature exists, they do keep the legend from dying. So, what is your opinion on the evidence? Let me know in the comments section below. Again, before you decide to run off into the Congo to fulfill some lifelong Flintstones dream, you need to understand just how dangerous that place is. Imagine a rainforest, so dense that light struggles to reach the ground, rivers the color of polished obsidian winding through swamps, flooded forests, and marshes that can swallow entire vehicles, rainstorms that turn trails into quicksand, insects that carry disease strong enough to end expeditions, heat and humidity that exhaust even trained professionals. And then, there's the human danger. Large portions of the region are controlled by armed groups, poachers, and illegal miners. Some areas are completely off limits to outsiders, others require escorts or private security just to pass safely. Even researchers supported by universities are advised to avoid certain regions entirely. The internet is filled with horror stories about what happens there, acts more horrifying than a living dinosaur. This is a place where experts get lost, where GPS malfunctions, and where the jungle literally reshapes itself over time. If a large, shy, river-dwelling creature wanted to avoid discovery, this would be the perfect place to do it. And of course, it's important for us to cover the possibility of misidentification. Now let's shift to the skeptical side of things, because the most interesting mystery survives scrutiny, not avoided. Skeptics argue that many sightings could be normal animals seen under abnormal conditions. For instance, swimming elephants often leave only their backs and trunks visible, creating the illusion of a long-necked creature. Monitor lizards glide through rivers with smooth serpentine motion. Crocodiles can rise and sink in ways that resemble a large humped creature. And manatees can appear deceptively large and dinosaur-like from certain angles. And then of course there's perception. In a dense, foggy, predator-filled environment, the brain sometimes fills in gaps. Expectations become part of the sighting. Now before you get upset thinking that your dream of riding on the back of a dinosaur has fallen flat, understand that these theories aren't airtight, and history has proven that. Long before cryptid hunters existed, entire species were dismissed as myths until they weren't. For instance, the western lowland gorilla was treated as a rumor until 1902. The okapi was considered a tall tale until scientists proved it real in 1901. And the coelacanth, a prehistoric fish thought to be extinct for 66 million years, resurfaced in 1938. These animals weren't imaginary, just unbelievably rare, incredibly cautious, and perfectly adapted to hiding. And when you live in an environment as tangled and treacherous as the Congo Basin, a creature doesn't have to be supernatural to remain unseen. It just needs to be really good at surviving. To this very day, locals still insist that something large and silent moves through certain riverbeds, something they've been aware of far longer than the outside world. I remember reading about the Mokele-Mbembe years ago, and the kid in me would always say the same thing. It's a living dinosaur. Why is no one looking for this thing? I mean, it's a living dinosaur. Do I even need to say anything else? It does not get any cooler than that. Since you clicked on this video, I think it's safe to assume that you felt the same way at some point. And I think something that's not spoken about enough is just how expensive an expedition of that size into the Congo would be. Exploring the Congo Basin at a scale needed to properly look for this creature would be expensive, but like shockingly expensive. I'm going to hit you with a lot of words here in just a second, so brace yourself. The expedition would require international flights and visas, government permits, private bush planes or helicopters, boats, fuel and maintenance parts, medical teams, satellite communication gear, local guides and translators, food, water and filtration equipment, biohazard precautions, security personnel, hazard insurance, weeks or months of supplies. Honestly, there's probably a lot more. Additionally, you would need more funds to cover everything in the event that things just don't go as planned. And in the Congo, that's to be expected. Even a modest scientific expedition can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. A full-scale search for this animal could easily hit 7 figures. Heck, even more if a professional and trained camera team is involved, with at least basic survival training for everyone. And here's the hard truth. Universities don't get grants for cryptid hunting. Governments don't fund dinosaur-shaped maybes. And private investors rarely pour that kind of money into projects with a low chance of factual return. It isn't necessarily that scientists don't care, it's that the cost-to-evidence ratio makes it nearly impossible to justify. So the creature remains unproven, not because it isn't there, but because nobody has the necessary resources or institutional support to look properly.
But hey, if you're a super rich person or a company, discovery, that turned into a real cough. If you're watching this right now and you've got funds to blow, then something like this, instead of, off the top of my head, a clock in the mountains or another yacht, call my people. Which is me. Call me. Now, I can't promise I'll survive the entire expedition, but I will get you that footage. And none of that shaky hand stuff. I mean, like pristine, good stuff.
God damn it, Preston, we're gonna finish this film for Herb.
For Joe. He meant Joe for me. So, where exactly does that leave us? We have a creature described consistently for over a century, legends that predate modern exploration. Testimonies from villagers who live their lives on these rivers and know the area and animals like the back of their hands. Videos that raise more questions than answers, a landscape capable of hiding anything it wants, skeptical explanations that fit but not perfectly, and a world full of animals once thought to be impossible until science finally caught up. Personally, I choose to believe that the locals are definitely seeing something strange that fits the shape of a dinosaur. Now, do I believe it's a surviving sauropod? No, but I'm still open to the idea. In my opinion, it's most likely an animal that was forced to adapt to a dangerous environment and develop similarities in appearance. Just like many other cryptids, the Mokele-Mbembe sits in that strange space between folklore and possibility, between the known and the undiscovered, a reminder that even today, Earth still has places where mystery thrives. And deep in the dark waters of the Congo Basin, something might still be hiding. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for future cryptid content.
Believe it or not, there are stories on this channel. I do tell stories, original Paranormish stories. Now, no one watches them because no one knows me, but they're on there. Yeah, they are.
I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding. I appreciate every view and subscriber I have. You all mean the world to me. But maybe you're out buying groceries, cleaning, or enjoy a good bedtime story. If you like cosmic horror with a splash of psychological thrills, you should definitely take a listen. I'm Josiah with Paranormish, and of course, it's been a pleasure. I'll see you next time. Stay curious.